Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. Welcome to Never Been Promoted. I'm your host, Thomas Helfrich. I have my lovely little cut tie on today. Why? Because I like to cut ties to things holding me back. And that's what we're here to do here at Never Been Promoted, is to help you cut ties to things that are holding you back so you can become the best version of yourself, best entrepreneur you can. Sometimes I like to fix my hair with my little keyboard thing. See this right here? You can see that. Full feathered. It just means I need a haircut, and I'm trying to show more personality in the show because off at camera, I'm a maniac. You just don't even know what I'm going to say. It's kind of fun. Today is all about redefining leadership, specifically around women, because our guest is Dr. Christie-Betha. She says it's French Creole, the dash. She's going to correct me. I would have called it Betha. But I mean, her resume of things. Let me just go through this. She's a former Miss America, 1997, 1998, former Miss New York, United States, 2011, 2013, decided to take 2012 off because she was like, I got to give somebody else competition so she came back and kicked her ass in 13. She's a doctor of ministry and has a master's in transformational leadership. And she's really one of the really outspoken leaders for women in leadership. Here's the thing. She's also a ninja. Full kung fu, can kick your ass. And I'm not kidding. Like, would whip the shit out of most people that are going to watch or listen to this. Her company's Be Harmony. It's this, we're going to talk about that, about her passion around this organic, toxin-free personal products as well, and her journey in that entrepreneurship. So, living the best life, complete life, lots of stuff. That's her. All right, one shameless plug before we bring her on. Go to neverbeenpromoted.com. Check out some of the cool stuff we have. And if you don't mind, check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@neverbeenpromoted. Enough shameless plugs.
Hey,
Doctor.
Hey, fellow Blockser.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Also was on the Blocks, season 18, is where we actually got to spend some time in pods.
Yes.
Very long ponds. Sometimes you're sitting in those ponds.
Very long. I have ants in my pants, so if you saw me leave, I was actually running the hallways just to keep the energy up. Yeah.
Fitness nut, because you were like, I think you said at one point, you said, I just did 10,000 stairs or something. What? Where are there that many?
Well, I'm
stairs?
actually a national fitness expert. I've been doing fitness videos for years and been on the Dr. Phil show as an expert in the Doctor Show. So I'm all about finding buttons with people and transforming them. So
I just like to push them.
Yeah.
Ooh, what's that one do? When you were on Dr. Phil, did he say, what you got to do? Did he actually use that one? Or did he use it?
No, actually he corrected me before the audience because nobody had given me cues. I was talking to the audience and he's like, you need to look at me and stop looking at them, and embarrassed me. And I said, well, hang on a second. Maybe if someone gave me instructions, I wouldn't have looked at the audience and I would have just looked at you. And I corrected him and he would apologize for it. So
he's a dick.
Let me say
Dr.
anything.
Phil,
I'm a doctor of ministry. I do not call names.
I'm not. He's a dick. That's a dick move because, like, it's different if you're like, it ruins a show. It's more of like, hey, pause filming. Hey, just keep it on me. Like they're like how you describe that. That's a dick move. That's an egomaniac. Dr. Phil, what he needs to do is stop being a dick. Okay.
I just stood my ground. He apologized. So
You know why? Because you can kick him in the face at any point.
Yeah.
Were you thinking like a back spinning heel kick or just straight front kick to the north?
No. I just thought you're not being very nice to me and embarrassing me, and I'm going to stand up to you because I don't care who you are, and that's what I did.
All right, I'm gonna translate that. He was gonna kick him in the nuts. That's what it was.
No. I could tell you a story about the only time I ever did that to somebody.
Oh.
But, yeah. Other than that, we'll move on.
Thank you, by the way, for coming today.
Thanks for having
me. Where do you call home? Where's home nowadays?
I live out in Buffalo, New York. So just a town outside of Buffalo, about 15 minutes.
Buffalo, New York. It's winter there in July. And
yes.
How much snow do you guys get a year in Buffalo?
It's like, I don't know. We just got 30 inches in the South towns. So
put that in perspective.
Shoveling. It makes for a good
Georgia hasn't gotten
skiing season, but
Atlanta hasn't gotten 30 inches total in the last 100 years. So
we've got so much snow. It's crazy. Yeah.
Do you ever go, why do we live here?
I do it all the time because I'm a warm weather girl. I'm a summer girl. That's my season. I strip down and outside activities and swimming every day. And I love outdoor weather, playing outside. I played football for 12 years for a media league. I love the weather. I do.
I would definitely.
I do not. That's why I never cheered for the NFL. I cheered for the Arena Football League because it was indoor and it was warm. I would have cried like a baby because as a kid, when I used to do all the cheerleading, I would cry when it was freezing outside. I don't like to be cold. I won't go snowboarding if it's 20 degrees or less. It's not happening.
I've seen it, but I think that's like the fact that you're in, Buffalo, which is like one of those snowy towns in the U.S. You got to get to Florida at some point. Like you just got to be like, listen, I've had enough. We're going to have to base ourselves out of Florida a little bit.
Considering getting a house in Florida. No doubt. Yeah.
All right. Wait, listen, give everyone, give everyone like kind of the, as far back, you have an incredibly vibrant history and just path in life. And I'll leave it to you and I'll be quiet, but give everyone kind of a background of who you are.
Well, I started modeling at the age of 14. And then I was in New York City at 16, signed my first contract with Legends IMG on my 17th birthday. So I was like, woohoo! I figured it out. When I was going to different agencies, I would let them know, well, this agent wants to sign me. This agency wants to sign me. I let them know I was in demand. I figured that out really quick. And then all of a sudden they all wanted it. I had 8 agencies I could decide to, between. And what I did was go with the agency that was most excited about me and wanted to pour into me. I wasn't just going to pick the bigger agencies like Ford. I just decided to go with the agency that really was passionate about me. And I think those are the people that you surround yourself with that are going to pour into you and work for you. And so my modeling career, just went crazy. I came back and I told my principal of my high school, I said, listen, I got a contract for over $200,000 a year. I was
at 17 years old.
Yeah. And I said, I am, I was the president of the student council and vice president of Red Cross. I was involved in activity. I said, listen, I'm going to hand this stuff over. What do I need to do to graduate? And I graduated in January. And then I was off by April in Germany, modeling there, and figured that out because I had a German heritage. I found somebody I could learn the German language every day after doing go-sees and jobs. And I was working twice a day. But all those crazy stories that they tell you that they'll take your passport and they want you to try to stay there or they'll try to marry you off. Yeah, that all happened to me. I literally left $10,000 there. I got smart. Like the first week I was there after I started working, I started saying, oh, I need money for clothes, or can you advance me my money for this, for that? And I put it right in the Deutsche Bank and accumulate as much as possible. But then my grandmother died and they weren't going to give me my passport to go home. They said, no, we want you to live here. And we're not letting you go. And I just
who was saying that? Was it
my agent? My agent. I made them so much money. I was working twice a day, and I just did this whole I promise I'll come back, and let me just go home and bury my grandmother and then I'll be back. And I was like, heck no, because they had this guy lined up for me to marry, so I could stay there and I could work. It was all those
crazy.
All those stories they tell you, yeah, absolutely. So I left.
I've never heard those stories. So this is
Graham with
I'm hearing it for the first I'm hearing it for the first time. So
Yeah.
so an agency, a modeling agency. This is a
Mhm.
normal practice. You're telling me that
Mhm.
they get a young female in out of country.
Yep.
They work them, which is part of the deal. You're excited to go do that, but then they're like they do everything possible to keep you in country, to keep
Especially
you
if you're making
billing.
the money.
Well, I mean, oh yeah, only if you're making money.
And the
Otherwise, they're not
reason
gonna
I
do
was
it.
making money is because, again, I figured it out. I was like, okay, I have German heritage. I'm going to learn the language. I'm going to try to speak the language to them and connect with them. And so they loved me. You know, they just literally loved that they would tell me that. So I would get more work and just connect with people. But I was making the agency so much money that they were like, we're going to keep her.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you got back to so we're this our whole show might just be your history, and we'll get to the point where like you got to go buy some college more. But
Well, I got back and
you
I
got back to bury grandma, and you never returned, or how did that work?
No, I went back to New York City, and then I was working like crazy, and then I got they switched my booker, and you're assigned a booker for your typecast, brown hair, a certain look, and they said I reminded them of this woman named Gia, who was a supermodel, but she died of a drug overdose. So I was getting all her work. When they switched my booker didn't like me, this new booker. So I went to the agency president and I said, listen, I know all the girls that are my type. They're getting jobs. They're getting cast. She's not sending me out for anything. And they refused to switch. So I ended up going to Faces with Sue Charney. And that is where I met Bill Cosby. And I was one of the accusers. I was one of the Me Too. But I was different because I was a born again Christian since I was 7. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I literally, when I met him, they lined us up almost like cattle. I realized that. She said, oh, I want you to go to the Cosby Show. He's a friend of mine. And I realized this was like a lined up escort service. And when they lined us up after the show, he went to each girl. And then he came to me and said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'm taking acting lessons. I want to earn it. I don't want to be some dumb model that gets a bunch of acting parts and has no idea what I'm doing. So I started studying with, off Broadway coaches, commercial acting coaches, anything I could do for the business. And he said, well, I can help you with that. I was like, okay, cool. Like, to me, I've been around celebrities like Rick James since I was 14. Like, I did covers for his album. I mean, like, to me, celebrities were just people and I would treat them like that. No different. And so when he started calling me and having me on the show, and then he said, you need to go back to Buffalo. And if you're serious, because I was working with William Masper Studios, I called that guy 4 times a day till he finally let me in. He's like, you don't have life experience. You're 19. You have no idea what you're doing. I'm like, yes, I do. And really, I didn't. And finally, he let me in, and I went, oh, I guess I don't have anything to connect with. I haven't really experienced life. I was just living in this good girl, bubble. And so Bill said, go back to college. So I went back to Buffalo. I did not want to leave New York City. And so I started taking theater classes, dance minor. And from there, he would just fly me back and forth to New York City, and I'd go on his Jell-O commercials and, blah, blah, blah. And he became like the dad that my dad was too busy working, wasn't really around. And so he was like a father figure to me. So I had no idea he had been doing these things since the 60s. So I was like the hidden witness in the case. Finally, I had promised my dad that I would come forward one day, but I never wanted to come forward and people thought I was just trying to make money off of him or make it that way. I wanted to make it on my own because the last experience I had, I went into Chicago and he said, hey, I want you to fly. I was doing a TV show on for Channel 2 locally in Buffalo. He said, I want you to come to Chicago and audition for this movie, but I also want to see if maybe you should be an anchor on the news. So I was like, okay. And he just said a few things like, he told my mom, you're going to come back a different woman. And he also said to me, I love you. And I said, oh, Bill, that's sweet. I love you too. Kind of like, you're like my dad. And so when I went there, that's when the flags went up and I was in his hotel room. I thought where's my hotel room? He had already, he had planned for us to stay together. And
Oh, wow.
And so he's like,
how old were you at that point?
I was 20.
20. And you're like, no.
Yeah, I met him like probably just before my 19th birthday, and I was 20 going on 21. So yeah, it was just, I sat there at the dinner, this table that he had in this room. And then when I had walked in, he had a cigar and he's in his PJs. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm just saying hi to him and then I'm going to go to my hotel room. So when I started eating, he's like, I'm watching your TV show. I want to, just check it out. And then he said, come on over. And that's when he had this drink. And I don't drink. At that time, all I drank was cranberry juice, one after the other. I think I had 3 on the plane. And then he had this drink. I said, Bill, I don't drink. It gives me stomach ache. I don't drink. I can't drink. It just was one of those lightweights that would black out on 1 or 2 drinks. So I never just wanted to be out of control. And that's when he said, come on over and, just take a sip. So I took a sip, but it was like bitter and nasty. I said, I can't drink that. So I killed his plans. Right. And then he just had me read as if out of a newspaper, as if I'm going to be an anchor. And then he come on the couch and do an imagine action exercise where you close your eyes, you visualize, gives you cues. And that's when he tried to kiss me like a boyfriend. And I just was like, what are you doing? Like disgusting. It's like kissing your father. Right. And that's when I just said, what are you doing? He's like, you said you love me. I said, like a father, Well, he said
that was his MO, right? That what you just described is, I think, what a lot of people described is what he would do. Correct? Is bring him in, build trust, and then abuse.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I was even in his brownstone, and the first thing he asked me, that was the place. I guess I watched it after I gave my statement because I promised my dad I would come forward. And when he died in 2015, my uncle's like, "You promised, you need to come forward." So when I heard all the different women are coming forward, I said, "All right, I'll just give my statement." And I had called Gloria Allred, but just the fact that all these people, Beverly said she was in that brownstone. I went there for an acting lesson. I thought I was going to meet his wife. I was very detailed. Like I would take a piece of paper and say, Bill called me at 10:15 a.m. and this is what we talked about. And then I put it down. If I had another scrap of paper in my Bible, I'd say, his secretary called me and she booked me a flight on, Delta or whatever, United Airlines. And I'm going to, to New York City and blah, blah, blah. This was the conversation. And I put it down and put it in my Bible, close it. I literally saved details about everything because I thought this is cool.
Yeah.
I'm doing all these cool things. I was on the Jello commercial with Bill Cosby in the studio and I was there for the day and this is what we did and whatever. So, but when I was in that brownstone, the first thing he asked me was, do you want a cappuccino? I'm like, I love coffee. I'd love a cappuccino. I didn't realize until I came back from my statement that Beverly Johnson was in that brownstone and had that cappuccino and he drugged it. So when I was in that studio for an acting lesson, I'm like, where's your wife? Am I going to meet her? He goes and gets a phone call in the back. I see him down the long hallway in the back of the brownstone answering the phone. And he's talking and all of a sudden he's like, you got to leave. You got to get out of here. I never had the coffee. So I was like, God literally protected me. Every time I was in the studio where people got raped, I was talking about God and he was like, God is he's like a book on the shelf. You only take him down when you need him. Like I must have killed the mood all the time because I was always ministering.
I'm not sure there is a mood with rape, but okay.
I'm just saying, like if he had plans, I killed it. I killed it because he would just get so mad that I was always talking about God all the time.
It's crazy because the public image of him at that time was so like goody two shoes, and he used to the irony of he used to be out there outwardly spoken about like Eddie Murphy, these people cussing on stage and how horrible they were. And I'm like thinking, what about you?
Because my husband's African American, so that's where the Betha French Creole. His father's French Creole, his mother was Black and Native American, and mixed. But just to in the community of people of color, that was like their hope. This was Dr. Huxtable. This was giving them hope that they had an opportunity to have this nice life like that, and to have that disappointment was just. So people didn't believe me when I was in my, early 20s, telling them the story about what happened with Bill. They're like, you're lying, blah, blah, blah. And they all called me afterwards and said, we thought you were lying. Like, it's exactly what you said happened to these people and happened to you. But I was like the hidden witness because I was so detailed, right? So about everything and what happened and the phone calls, and I had paychecks. I had details in a book and all kinds of stuff. And they had me as a hidden witness because they said, you're different. The way you told your story was just so as if it was yesterday and so specific. And the character of who you are, you're a Christian, you're a minister, you're literally, you were this good girl. You weren't the party girl. You weren't the one sleeping around. I was still a virgin until I was 21. So it's like, that kind of thing. And so I was just hidden and waiting. If you need me, you need me, because it shows character.
And I didn't follow the in super detail the spectacle what became of it. I don't even know I don't even know if he I have no idea if he was. I think he got convicted. I don't know. Did he go to jail or get out?
Well, it's funny. The first time was a hung jury, and my husband said, "Oh, he'll never get convicted." I said, "Mark my words. Within 3 years, he's going to go again for trial, and he's going to get convicted, even if it's up to 3 years." And he's like, no way, no way. And so it was a hung jury the first trial, and then he got convicted. But it's funny because I even had this show called The Preachers. They called me up and they're like, we want you on the show and blah, 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 blah. And I said, what kind of audience? He said, it's a majority people of color. And I said, I got my gut instinct that they were going to trash me, white girl against the black man. And I said, did you do your homework? And they go, what do you mean? I said, did you know that I am married to an African-American and that I preach in black churches and Latino churches? And they go, what did you say? I said, so if you have any plans to make me look like the girl who's just being prejudiced, it has nothing to, I don't see color like that. I wasn't that kind of person. And they were like, they never called me back.
Wow. All right. So that's 21. So you're coming back. I mean, I'm not going to date your age though. So you're coming back at some period of time.
I don't really carry this point. I just try to live the best I can.
So that was like 4
thanks to my products.
Right. There you go. QR code. So did the time with Cosby fizzle out as you went on other things, or did you kind of pull back and seek other mentorship? How did that? I mean, after that dynamic.
One of the things I did say after he had, it got to the point where, when I told him, he said, you're never going to make it unless you sleep with me, and he said some sexual things to me, and I'm like, I think that's because I didn't really know much about the lingo because I was such a good kid. But I just basically said to him, shame on you. You just mess with one of God's children. You're in big trouble, Mr. Father Figure of America. Your kids are older than I am. And I said, and I will make it without selling my soul. Trust me. And that's literally what I said to him. And I was like, I want a flight out of here. He said, there's no more flights leaving Chicago. And literally he backed up into this, penthouse room and said, this is your last chance if you want to make it. And I sat on the couch all night with my eyes open because I thought I was going to get raped. And the next morning, I remember he got the flights and he said, here's your flight information. He said, call me tomorrow. I said, Bill, I will never talk to you again. So after that was over. I put that, I felt betrayed, this sickening betrayal because he was like my dad and I loved him like that. But I just set it aside and I was on a mission to prove him wrong. When people used to tell me you're never going to make it on a cover of a magazine, you're never going to do this, I was always on a mission to prove them wrong. So he actually kickstarted me even harder to make sure I was going to make it in the industry. So
I would give him no credit. I mean, I'm sure you learned some things from it, but the betrayal.
You always learn from those.
Yeah, but but I mean, at what cost and betrayal? Like, do you trade the experience? You got out of there better than others for sure. Yeah. How long did you share this immediately with your family, or did you have any support system in place?
Well, it's my mom had this instinct. My brother, who just started as a Marine, he literally said that, Mom, I don't like him. He's a bad guy and blah, blah, blah. I mean, because he said to me, he said to my mother before I went to Chicago, she's going to come back a different woman. And she didn't understand what that meant. Meaning. Right.
And why would she need to come back a different woman?
Right.
See, that's like, in light of it, that sounds incredibly nefarious. Like now it's like, wow. Yeah.
He knew what a good girl I was. He knew.
Yeah.
So he just took his time with me, different than anybody else. So, but moving on, I just really focused on my mission was to just keep pouring into New York. Yeah. I continued my classes. I met my ex-husband while I was at Buffalo State College. And because I was such a good kid, I did not see what kind of person he was. And my sister,
Bill Cosby, or your ex-husband?
My ex-husband, yeah. So when I met him, it was a little bit of a distraction from school and things like that. But I was still doing my career. I just thought he was something that he wasn't. He was not a good person. It was not that's where the domestic violence came in through those years, and had the two kids. And but it's really funny. I had, before I went into the pageant, so all these years I was married to him, and I had this she was the New York State director, but she was a makeup artist. I was doing all this Kodak modeling too with her, and I would work a variety of other jobs. And she said, you really, you're in, because I was in school for communications and I was working with Channel 4 and just doing a ton of stuff besides modeling. And she said, hey, you should do pageants. You should do this, Mrs. New York. And that was my first pageant, Mrs. New York, United States, before America. And I always thought, I don't know, what do I got to do? And I decided to do it. Well, I made top 10, but I did make it. But the judges said to me, Lisa, if you change these 3 things and go on to the Mrs. New York America pageant, I guarantee you'll be the next Mrs. America. And I thought, I'm a model who did runway and all that stuff. They said I had to change the color of my bathing suit. I had to slow down the way that I walked, because, the runway is different than pageant. And then they said, and don't say in between all your sentences. I went, oh.
That's just good advice, by the way, for anyone.
For anyone.
Right. From
there, I went, okay, I'll do that. And so when I went on to that pageant, I was getting fought all the way into the pageant by my ex-husband. He did not want me to do that, but it was really miraculous, because a lot of Christians told me you were going to make it. I had a dream of the dress. Mm-hmm. It was a white dress and cut under my arms, and I had a pageant sponsor for a bridal shop. We couldn't find the dress on the pageant gown side. And my director goes, well, what color was the dress you had a dream of? I said, it was white. She goes, let's go over to the bridal side. And she just parted the sea of dresses, and it was right there. And And I had seen myself with the crown and everything before I put that dress on. But there was a couple things before I won the state pageant. I just said a prayer, Lord, my life sucks. If you have a better way, I'll be a mover and a shaker for you. But if this pageant's right for my family, please, just make it happen. And just said this prayer before the state pageant. And when I went into it, it's funny, because all these women spent $5,000, $10,000 on dresses. Mine was $169. And when I was in the and then when I was in the United States with that same dress, I did not get any accolades for it. So I wore the same dress, because obviously we were tight on money, and he was out busy and partying and spending our family dollars. And I wore the same dress, and I got best evening gown in that dress. And I won. And I sat in that car, and he literally cut me to pieces. If you think you're, swearing at me, you're going to be running all over the place. These kids are your first priority, and don't let it go to your head.
You just won,
I just won, and my mom's sitting in the car, and he was just destroying me. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I thought, cool. When I won, I thought, cool. I didn't expect, I had all these sponsors, and we had cash, but I got a pageant coach. And from there, 2 scriptures God gave me. Psalms 20, I'll give you your heart's desire. After I said that prayer, I'll give you your heart's desire. There'll be shouts of fame and honor in the street. And then Psalms 21, I'll place the crown of glory on you. As long as you trust and serve me, you'll never stumble or fall. You'll get your victory. And I thought, well, that's cool, but it just kept going. Like, all these miraculous things started happening. It was just, I was provided for. I didn't have to buy anything on the way to the national pageant. I think the only thing I had to buy was pantyhose for the swimwear and a pair of Payless shoes. They wanted these solid, ugly shoes. Everybody had to have the same thing. And so when I went to the pageant, I thought, cool. I wasn't allowed to have friends for my marriage, throughout my marriage. He'd be out running around, and I couldn't go out with any of my friends. So I was home with my kids all the time and praying with them. And I go, oh my God, there's all these beautiful women, 50 other women.
Want to be my friend. I can have fun.
Yeah. So I was very helpful, and, I got the congeniality, but I was just like, I love people. I've always loved people, to try to serve people, to try to help people. That's just been my heart, so here, use my clothes, use my stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then it was just this really crazy thing happened. I win top, the first night I it's like top 10 preliminaries. My dad is there, who was never, as I said, Bill Cosby was like a father. My dad comes for the second time in my entire life to anything. And he's cheering for who ends up being my first runner-up. So it crushes me. And then my ex says, I know you're going to win, but I'm going to leave you if you win. So this is like my face.
Are you thinking like, I'm going to win this thing?
I know. I literally, those 2 crushed me. And so Florence Henderson, Mrs. Brady, was the MC. And I was wearing the fishnet stockings, the tuxedo. I was a rockette with the top hat. And she said, and it's funny, she says, Lisa, let's sing New York, New York together. Well, that got my mind off of everything. And we started singing it, but I had a whole other version of that in high school, which was not appropriate. So I was like, please, God, please.
I don't know that version. And I don't see those on your TikTok feeds of you rocking that one. So I'm expecting to see a new TikTok of you singing whatever version you just described.
No, it's never happening.
Oh, come on.
Oh, God, no. Oh, God, no. I would be so embarrassed. So I sing this with her, and all of a sudden I make top 10, and they, when you make top 10 preliminary night, they wipe the scores and you get a fresh start. So I make it. Now I'm crushed still. I go in my room, and I decide to walk down the hallway, and this woman comes out of her room and she says, God sent me to you. And she knew about my life. She gave me scripture, and literally, I looked at it like 2 years ago. It was basically telling me I would one day leave him because he was so abusive. Like, he threatened to kill me and everything. It was that bad.
Did you know who she was?
Nope. But she literally got sent her to reignite.
I have questions about the security of how she got to you, but we'll leave that.
She
Just
knew scripture. She knew about everything about it. She was prophetic, in the Christian realm.
Like maybe it was an intervention or some type of.
It was like a divine intervention, honestly.
Did she appear and then just you turn around and she was gone? Like, did I imagine that?
No, there was something like that after I won, though. So I make top 5 on the stage and backstage, and I was a performer, so I don't care if there's like a million people out there. I'll perform for them. Right. I'm a national, like I've done singing on TV before. It's just I've been professionally singing for a long time, and so I was just like, okay, I'm in the corner. All these girls are nervous. I'm just going to stay away from them. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking of what will the pageant question be? Will it be solving world problems? Will it be political? Blah, blah, blah. I had that pageant coach for a month. I was like, I'm planning for almost like a midterm exam, Mm-hmm. And I hear this voice say, the question will be so easy, my daughter. You won't believe it. I told you that I placed the crown of glory on your head. Now I'm thinking, all right, I'm stressed. I did not hear that. I'm going to set that aside.
Not going to turn around and look. Because
there's after I had said that prayer before I went to the state pageant, the next day I started seeing scripture every time I'd ask God a question. And I hadn't read the whole Bible. So I was like, if this is you, I know you've talked to me through other people my whole life, and I've had prophetic words my whole life and it will come to pass. But you're showing me stuff now. So I need to know this is you. And one of the things I said is, if this is really you, show me an area of the Bible I don't know exists, Lord. And he gave me I thought he said Joshua. He said, no, my daughter, Hosea, Hosea. Go to the front of your Bible and you find it. And I'm stumbling through my Bible. I'm like, oh, what? It's in there, out of the 66 books. And then I said, okay, one more question. So then we'll move on. Show me, I don't know, 2 different areas of the Bible that talk about the end times. And he gave me Ezekiel 7, verse 13, and Revelations 18, verse 11. And when I finally found them both, I opened them up and they said the merchants in the end time will have no one to sell to. And they matched. There's no way I could have done that. And that's why, when I went on to the national and I'm backstage, I was still like, this is freaking me out, God. It's freaking me out. I'm going to put that in my pocket.
That's what freaks you out. The thing that you can't see, not the millions of people watching or what you're about to, you're not going to trip. These ugly shoes you got to wear or whatever. None of that freaks you out. Yeah. It's some voice. Okay.
Yeah. So I go out on stage and they bring out the top 5. Now, as we're getting lowered down, this fancy, cool, glamorous thing where all 5 of us are in this big platform getting lowered onto the stage. And they all say to me, we know you're going to win, Lisa. I said, wait a minute. We didn't even compete yet. They're like, we just know you're going to win. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
your contestants.
The other 4. We're all saying this to me.
Now they're like, are they just trying to mind bend me right now?
I just was like, wait, but we all got to compete. They're like, we just know. So we get on stage and the producer goes, okay, ladies, this is what's going to happen. Florence Henderson's going to come out. She's going to give you a fishbowl of questions. All you got to do is reach in and hand her the question. She'll ask you the onstage question. Easy enough. But they bring the husbands out and they line up next to us. And she goes to the first woman. The cameras start rolling. Tell your husband how you're feeling at this moment. And I'm thinking,
wait, this is the husband that doesn't want you to be there.
And I'm thinking, how am I going to do that? Right. So they come up to me and I just was grateful. I said how grateful I was that all my friends and family had come together. I was crying, like tears came to my eyes because it was just, I had friends that had parties for me, people that gave me everything. I literally didn't have to think about anything for us not having money and him being so bad with it and what he's done for our family. God really provided everything. It's like rolling out a red carpet. So I was just so from my heart. And the next thing you know, I got a crown on my head, a fur coat on my back, and this, this banner.
And divorce papers. He promised.
So in that moment, I said to God, why me? Why did you? And the funny thing was that was tell your husband how you're feeling. The question was so easy, I wouldn't know it. The question was so like, you won't believe it. I didn't even know it. God had said the question will be so easy, you won't believe it. I didn't even know it.
You could answer from your heart.
So I said, why me? He said, tell everyone that Jesus is Lord, Judgment Day is coming. I said, okay, I could do that. I could do that. Easy. And from there, it just opened all these doors. But the funny thing is on the plane, this is what I was going to say. On the plane to Las Vegas, all these girls are showing off that they're Mrs. Nevada, Mrs. this, Mrs. that, right? I put mine in my bag. I was being private about it. So I sit next to this guy, Gary, on the plane. And before I had left, somebody had prayed over me and said, you're going to have healing hands. And I was like, what does that mean?
Could you explain that?
So he's sitting next to me and he's talking about all his health issues, that he was in World War II and he got caught with a bayonet. He has diabetes and back issues. And all of a sudden the light bulb goes on. Oh, and I said, hey, Gary, I was told that I'd have healing hands. Would you like to be my first customer? Can I pray for you? And he goes, I would love that. And so I was praying for him and he sees the banner and he goes, are you with those girls? I said, wait, anyway. And I just go and I pray for him. And then in the middle of the prayer, I just felt like I was supposed to give him my pen that said Mrs. New York. And I said, listen, if I win this pageant, know that you're going to be healed. All right. This guy's wonderful. I've never been to Vegas. He brings me to the baggage claim. He puts my stuff on the baggage. He brings me to where I'm supposed to take transportation and take it to the hotel. And I didn't have to think about anything. Right. As soon as I win, Tom, this is tuxedo, $100 and some a ticket. Like he's on the stage. My family couldn't even come on the stage. On the stage in khaki shorts and a Hawaiian shirt with my pen going, Lisa, I believe. I'm like,
wait, how do you do that?
And I go, Gary, what are you doing here? What are you doing? And they're pulling me for pictures. And I said, hang on a second, stay there. And I turn this way and I turn back and he's gone. And I was like,
did you think you imagined it?
I'm like, is this an angel? That's all I could think of because I experienced an angel. And, when I was like 13, we went to California and we literally prayed for an angel to come. It was like we were going through.
Because in fact, you can't get on that stage.
Exactly. My family couldn't even get on.
Gary's connected.
And the way he was dressed too. I was like, how are you? How did you get on the stage? Right. And I just won
a few times. Like, it's fair to say you've never seen him since.
No.
Maybe it was an angel.
Much like when we were in Oklahoma, our tie rod broke on the way to California. And my mom and I were praying for an angel. We're like, Lord, bring an angel because it's Sunday. The town's closed. We're like in a small town. All of a sudden, this guy is like, hi, my name is Jim.
I'm going
to fix your car.
When we were at the blocks, we had the angel, Lonnie, in our group most of the time. He's a neighborhood angel. So he was on the show. And he's a guy in New York.
Great guy. He was on the show, right?
People go, hey, can you do this? And he says, yes. It's a matter of move a piano.
Great guy.
He'll paint off the wall. He does it. He's amazing.
He did your podcast, correct?
He did. Yeah, I know he did. He's a good dude. I mean,
he is. A good dude.
For those who've never heard of the blocks, you got to check that out. Like you're talking about 100 entrepreneurs come together, all have ADD, all have an amazing week, just talking, learning, networking.
But it's more important this time is that it was 100 different companies out of almost 100,000 were picked. And I didn't know that. Yeah.
I didn't know that. You know what's funny? I will tell you. So I don't remember applying, to be fair.
Really?
So I don't. And I didn't know it was a competition till the day before I left because I just watched the videos but didn't watch what the thing was about.
You only watched the videos the day before?
Just the training videos because like, oh, this would be cool. And I went there with the idea of I'm just going to go meet 100 people and I'm going to go take it as whatever they're going to teach for the day because I like what they were teaching in the videos. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to find a way to apply that to my business. So every night I would just see the slides like, hey, how could I do this? And in the morning after breakfast, I would go through and be like by myself, like, all right, I think I could do this. And I think if I did it, I would do it this way. And that ended up being what we were pretty much doing in the pod.
That was the playbook. That was literally
right. And so I'd already
didn't even look at those slides. They didn't even know they were there. I went, no, what?
By the time we got to the pod, I'd already practiced whatever I was going to say maybe 100 times because I'd already done it since the night before. And I didn't realize that's actually the game. So
found it. We were on the same thing. That's exactly. I would go through the slides at night after we got back in and I would go through them all and then I would apply it to the business and I would start that and write it down according to morning. And then I would fill in the blanks of whatever he had to add. And then I was writing script over and over again in my head.
I was there promoting Instantly Relevant, my company. I was going to do it for this, but I'm promoting it as something we help marketing agencies verify what they can do. And I got to get my website up and ready for that.
Yeah.
Because our agency does slightly different. But anyway, that here, no, there. So, okay. So you go through, you win it. What happens after that?
Oh gosh, it was really an amazing blessing. All the things that I had put on the shelf, because we sacrificed, because our as I said, we were week to week paycheck. It was just difficult because, my ex he was doing drugs, he was drinking, he was spending. And even though I was doing amazing things, still in the industry of television and modeling and making money, it was just going right out the window. So here now I have all this prize up to, I think it was like over here, there's 200,000 again. I had $200,000 worth of prizes in cash, and, 12 pairs of Fendi glasses and 8 vacuum cleaners. And I was just literally giving my gifts away and keeping like maybe 1 or 2. I was just very like, thank you for being there for me and supporting me. And then a year of appearances. So you're on TV shows, and do
you get paid for those, or does that?
Oh, every single one. Yeah. And it just really launched even greater, my television and modeling career. It just did really cool things. And that going into the company, that I had purchased some stuff before I went there. I wanted to lose the last weight, and it just helped me. And so I decided to call the company and say, hey, you helped me win the pageant, and I just think I should, do something with you guys. And they ended up giving me a contract. This was an all natural. They had, some personal care products. They had some herbal remedies, all that kind of stuff. And I had to, I signed, and I ended up doing trade shows with them as well. But they had a flaw in their skin cream. And every time I used it, it was almost like it was flaking off like eczema or rosacea. So I'm at these trade shows trying to, promote this, and my face is just peeling off. And when my contract was up, I said, I really believe in your organ. Your skin is the largest organ on your body. What you put on it goes into it. What your body can't get rid of gets stored in your organs and tissues, causes chronic fatigue, depression, birth effects to your kids, etc. And I want to extend my days. I want to, live longer and preserve what I have so I can always work longer in the industry. And so I took more herbal classes, because I had worked with their master herbalist, but I decided to take herbal classes, and I just did research in the library, and I created all my products. And I didn't realize that there's so many healing properties, that because I just kept praying, Lord, show me what to do. And all of a sudden, after my divorce, my brother-in-law is working for this manufacturing plant, and they would produce all kinds of products and bottle it and never. So they said, hey, we would like to promote all your products. And they hired a scientist to make the formula on a larger scale. They had the customer service ready, the shipping and receiving, etc. And Tom, the company burned down. So
like literally burned.
And I'm going through a divorce, right? It literally, the whole company burned down. And I thought, it's just not time, because he would have made a fortune off of it. The stuff I went through with my ex, he knew all the lawyers and judges in the county. I had left my kids because he was threatening to kill me. And I packed my kids up, but he literally knew the lawyers and judges, and he ended up getting my custody of my 2 daughters, the ones that I stayed home with, who I was with, and he never bothered with.
And he's a drug addict.
Right. But through that whole process, I can honestly say that he finally got to spend time with the kids and learn to be a father. But also, I'm alive today, because had I gotten the kids, I would have been, him and his friend were planning to kill both myself and his friend's wife. And so it was just so bad. It was so bad. Yeah. But I ended up, winning my case years later. I had written a book in 2013 about my walkthrough and my journey, and just to try to inspire people. And
so this was 97, and then you won back to back.
I won 97. I was Mrs. America, considered 98. And then in 2000, on my birthday, I left my ex-husband. And from there, I was still doing appearances as, former Mrs. America. But the day I left him, it's so funny. All the clients were like, thank God you left him, because we would call you and he'd hang up on us, or he'd curse at us. And I literally, when I was leaving, he had emptied our bank account, opened a new one, and took all our money. And I found that slip in his cup, because he was self-employed, and he didn't know I knew it. So I set the the pin that we had for our marriage. He set the same pin on his bank.
Did you go back and re-rob it back, I hope?
No. I just would check on it. I would check on it to make sure when he gave me child support checks, when I first left him, he had to pay me to make sure. And if he didn't, and my kids were going with him, I would send them with a pizza knowing that he had no money because he had spent it all, and make sure that they were fed, little things just to check that the check was going to go through. And yeah. And so in 2002, he got custody right 3 days before Christmas. He took my kids, and the same day that he took custody of my kids, because he had a judge that he was friends with, and his lawyer went to his house and had him sign this to take my kids out of school, and he would get custody. And the same day that I lost my kids, my mom was having major surgery on her neck, a tumor, and they said she might be paralyzed, she might die through the surgery, she might not come out. And when I walked in post-surgery and I saw her, she was just the light. And she was speaking great, and she was just miraculously fine and perfect. I said, that's my hope, because I didn't want to tell her I lost my babies, a few days before Christmas.
How old were your kids at this time?
They were 10 and 7.
Oh man, that's a rough age too.
Yeah.
So since then, what happened? Did you get them back?
We went through 10 years of court, literally back and forth, and just as lie after lie. He would bring me into court, that if I was 5 minutes late dropping him off, he'd bring me into court saying that I didn't do the homework. He would literally try to take, money out of my account and send warrants saying I never paid child support, and so they would freeze my driver's license, and I'd have to go down and say, here is all the proof. I've paid the child support. It says the week, the month, the day, everything. And he would say, that's not for that. The guy would call him on the phone and say, hey, I'm looking at the checks. She paid the check. Nope, it was for something else. And we'd have to go back into court again for another year and a half. He just constantly had me followed. He would sit in my car and smoke cigarettes, let me know he's there. He would show up on my jobs, trying to find out how much I was making. He was intimidating. And then he said I threatened to kill him and his wife. So then I had to get a criminal lawyer. And I couldn't talk to my kids for a year. And I had to prove myself. I wasn't going to pay $10,000 for a criminal trial. So I did adjournment for contemplation of dismissal. So for 1 whole year, I couldn't talk to my kids. I had to use a third party. And my third party was my mother. And when she would call, he wouldn't let her talk to my kids. So for a whole year, until I got my kids on my time, on the, every other weekend or, a couple days during the week, I didn't get to talk to my children for nothing. And so he just made me pay for leaving them. And the Lord just kept putting on my heart to pray for him and to forgive him. And then one day he said, tell him you're sorry. It was like, people are like, are you crazy? This guy's evil. He did like horrible things. He took your kids.
Right. I'm like, what?
Like he harasses you. He tries to get your money. He tries to bring you back.
70 times 7, right? Forgive.
Yeah. So I literally was like, well, Lord, you're going to have to set it up. Because, like he was need a
little help on this one. You gotta get the Zoom call or something.
Kill him. Right. Yeah. I can't trust that. And literally God set it up. He was having me, experience some supernatural things. And I had seen him in a daytime vision. My husband and I were going snowboarding. And my daughter would always...
You were remarried at this point to your new husband?
Yeah. So my husband had, he'd snowboard with TINS machines on his back, and he lost it at the place. And so we went back the following week, and he called them and they had it. So it's like 3:00 in the afternoon. My ex would never go at that time. We tried to avoid him and leave by the time they got there. But my middle daughter would go snowboarding. She'd go to work, and then she'd go snowboarding with her dad. So it's 3:00 in the afternoon, and he's like telling the lady, hey, where's my TINS machine? And she had brought her kids to work. Babysitter must have failed. So her kids are running all over the place. She's at the cashier, and it's taken forever. And I sit down, and then I decide after a while, like, I'm going to stand up because this is just taking forever. And I see my ex sitting at the chalet table, and I had a dream about him, and my oldest daughter had a dream about him. My mother had a dream about him, that he had been thinking about all the horrible things that he had done to all of us. And it's getting to an age where my kids were going to, start, get maybe to the point where they're going to get married, or, we're going to have to see each other at activities. And he just almost felt this remorse about some of the stuff he did. And so I stood up and I see him, and he's sitting there at 3:00 in the afternoon, and he looks like he's stressed, and he's by himself. And I'm like, where's my daughter? And he looks up at me, and it's like he looks straight through me. And I sat down real quick and I said, honey, let's just get out of here. We'll just tell the lady we'll come back. Let's just go snowboarding because Shane's here any second. Anytime he would see me, he would stand in front of me, and he'd try to harass me to get me to do something, or he'd just check me up and down and just try to intimidate me. And I was just like, let's just leave it. I don't want to, I don't want to deal with that. So we went snowboarding. And so my daughter calls me at 4:15 and she said, hey, Mom, hey, I'm going to go snowboarding and I just got out of work and I'm going to go home and get changed and I'll be heading out there. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe she's going with her friends, and her dad went separate. Right. So we're leaving around 5:30. And then as we leave and we're going in, there's a snowstorm. And I said, honey, just so you know, when you go to leave, who did you drive with? I want you to be careful. There's a snowstorm. She goes, Mom, I came with Dad. And I was like, what? Wait, huh? Like, what's going on? So the following week, the Lord puts it on my heart that he was there, and it's time to say sorry to him. And all of a sudden, my middle daughter calls, because my youngest with my second husband was on the mound, and she was, learning how to snowboard, and she was having an all-out tantrum. It was embarrassing. So we got so disgusted, we didn't want to even go snowboarding. And so my husband's packing the car up, and I said, I'm just going to go get her a hot chocolate. And that's when I felt that my ex was there. I said, it's time to say sorry. And that's when she called, and she's like, where are you? I said, well, we had your sister take some lessons, and it was just a nightmare, and we're over by this, and I'm going to go get her a hot chocolate. I was about to say hot chocolate, and the phone disconnected. And her father, my first husband, says to her, who are you on the phone with? She goes, oh, it's my mom. He goes, yeah, she's over there with your little sister getting a hot chocolate. And the table that I had picked was right next to him. So here I'm coming up knowing that it's time, and I see him. I'm like, oh God, here we go. Now, let me just say, the trauma that my kids went through, he would lock them in a bathroom and say, if you don't tell me everything about your mother, you tell me what she's making, what she's doing, I'm going to put her in jail. You're never going to see her again. Like, they went through, like, it was just like they could never enjoy even it was constant. So when I walked up to him, I said, hey, I just wanted to talk to you for a second. Now my daughter's falling apart, my middle daughter. She's just flipping out like, what's going to happen? And I said, I just wanted to say I'm sorry that I hurt you in any way. And he put his head down really quick. He goes, oh, really? Because I've been thinking about a lot of things. And I said, I know. The kids are getting older, and we're going to see each other a lot more, and weddings or whatever. And I said, will you please just look at me? And he looked up, and my daughter, I just didn't want to look at her because it was hilarious what she was doing. She's bent over. Oh my God, like it was falling apart. But to me, it was like, I'm going to laugh because it was just funny what she was doing, but it was out of trauma. It just was, it's my sense of humor, but I was just like, okay, focus, just don't look at her. And I said, can I just hug you? I'm really sorry that I hurt you in any way. And I realized that it wasn't about me anymore. It's really about a soul. Even though he did such terrible things, and if you were to slide me over, he would do that to anybody. It was about getting his soul to heaven. So I was like, fine with that, with God. I was like, I get it. This is the father of my kids. And let me tell you, Tom, through all those years of torture, I had like 25 people offer to kill him, and I never asked. These are major national producers and designers, and I'm like, what are you saying? Like, no, he's the father of my kids. No, I never sell my soul for it. Yeah, I was just like, literally.
Do you guys speak today still, or?
It's transformative where he's at. Yeah, and it's like, to me, looking at it is like, okay. He said to me one time, my middle daughter she's a worship leader. And we were just praying in the church. It was just, you got the goosebumps, right? You just know, like, this kid almost died. A babysitter, gave her so much aspirin that she had all these seizures. And when she woke up from the seizures after 5 days, she was in a coma. She looked like she had Down syndrome. And a year to the date, the Lord had healed her. Like, she was on the higher level of learning. She played 3 sports. She was on honor roll, a who's who book. She's a miracle, literally. And she had miracle babies too. So she's singing, and he was in church. He must've got touched. He came up to me after. And like, when he would speak to me, it's like foreign language. I'm like, oh, a little bit of the PTSD. And he had said, I thought that my youngest interpreted afterwards, because it was just like, he's talking to me. I would always say hi, but anyway, he said, I thought our youngest, I thought Marissa was saved for me, for my purposes, but I realized it was for God's purposes. And I was just like, oh my gosh, so it was I would never change anything I've gone through, because it's made me so much more compassionate towards people. I have such a heart for helping others.
Is your current husband, which was back then, he sounds like a saint too. I mean, wow, I walked into this one.
We have a martial arts school. He was like my defender. We went through a struggle for a time, And,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
just the Lord just kept saying, have grace, have grace, have grace. You know, we had a like one phase, you know, that we went through, but honestly, it's just, I just see how God always is working through every situation. And it's just only honestly made me that much kinder and compassionate. And, you know, I even had gone through surgeries and stuff. And it just, to me, it was like, okay, as an herbalist and nutritionist, I was like, I can't take medication, never could. Like I said, I couldn't even drink. I got to find something that I can create that helps people with pain, and literally came up with this concoction that I have people all the way to China that are taking it, that tried acupuncture and all kinds of, you know, pharmaceuticals. And I'm all about literally extending your days, not shortening them. So as a nutritionist, herbalist, national fitness expert, you got my B. I'm like, I consider it the temple.
I think you said you have been sick in like 20 years when you and I talked
Right.
about that.
So I had been sick. The last time I had been sick was 2009. And recently over Thanksgiving, I got sick for the first time. I was like, I was doing a martial arts class with this guy who's in the military, and he had just gone overseas and come back. And I got something that hit me so hard when prior to the 2009, it had probably been 15 years before I had gotten sick. So this hit me so hard that I was on the couch in the worst pain, body aches, congestion, literally.
Finally, you got COVID. It's about time.
No, actually, I took several COVID tests. No, I was not. I did. It wasn't.
Like, damn it, I want my COVID.
It felt like the bird flu again. It literally felt like I had the bird flu again. And I know that's going around, but I was just like,
I had what you just described, by the way, and I think I got COVID like 3 times. I think
really?
officially, or maybe 4. But I got that in March or May or something last year. I was like, the one time my wife went out of town for work, I was like,
you wanted to die?
You'll appreciate this, though. I was doing a hard 75, which is the challenge. You have to work out twice a day and do all that stuff. I still got up and walked a half a mile for 45 minutes. It took me 45 minutes to walk a half a mile.
It helps me get over my sickness faster if I still kind of sweat it out and drink lots of water. And then
I slept like 20 hours, got up, took me like an hour to walk, back to bed.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about I'm just conscious of time. So your story is amazing, and there's way more to it. We're only we're probably 15 years short of today, but you're beyond like trying to do like pure toxin free things to help you for personal use. Can you talk about Be Harmony? And I'm going to put your website address up here just really quick so people can connect with you, or if they want to talk to you, it's bio.site / Dr. Lisa Christie, which is CHRISTIE.
Yeah, and you can even go to drlisachristie.com / Be-Harmony as well, or just go to drlisachristie.com and then click on Be Harmony.
You have a great story in books, but I one of the things you're redefining leadership. Like I probably should retitle this, that you're just like more on the faith side, because I think the show's been much more about how your faith is really it has been the guide, the road, the protect, all of it, right? And we do some shows around
about leadership. It's character, right? And you have this vision, this mission of what you're going to do with everything, and being the best person that you could possibly be. But also, leadership is not about us. It's about surrounding ourselves with the right people that help us do whatever it is that our goal is to achieve in life, but also to uplift those people all around you and help them as well to be the best that they can be. So literally, even when I counsel people, or I work out, sometimes I say, will you counsel me instead of work out? I said, no, we can do both. We can do both. We will talk, because I have a warm up that we can talk, and I can figure out where you're at, and we can talk throughout the workout, and I can see where you're at, and I can counsel you and do the both, or I just do private session. But it's about finding the buttons of that person so that I can, help them become the best person, no matter what circumstances, no matter what trials or traumas they've been through. And, what is it about you and how they process things? Because I hate when people say, oh, I know what you're going through. No, you don't, because I process things differently than you do. I'm an individual. And that's how the medical field is too. They don't treat you like individual. They treat you like cattle. They don't find the root of the problem.
Actually, cattle might be a nicer statement. I don't think it's even that.
Yeah.
But
going back to Be Harmony, when I created this, I decided, I want the right things that go on your skin and go into your body that are going to be beneficial and help healing. But I didn't realize, though, because the FDA requires the greatest ingredients to the least, you can't make any claims. But what I found out with my products from different testimonials is that people that had eczema within 2 days it dissipated. People that had athlete's foot, they used it between their toes. They used it as a deodorant. The people of color used it in their hair as a pomade. It got rid of brown spots and spider veins because of the gotu kola and a variety of things I put in there.
I mean, it fixes people's credit.
Burns and cracked hands. Like, they sunburn in this, they would put it on, or, post any kind of facials. If I went and got a laser facial or an acid peel and my face got burned a little bit, I would just put it on and it would soothe it immediately. But things that actually help people, and that's what it was about. So I decided to make sure, even if, the kids ate the chapstick, they were going to put something that, how many kids eat lipstick, right? Or chapstick?
I have eaten chapstick, chocolate flavored. I remember the day. And I got in trouble for it. And then I turned around and ate her Laffy Taffy as well, my sisters. So they both were delicious. I had to be like 5 or 6.
Right, and they had flavors where they smell like Coca-Cola. Do you remember the old days? Like
I do. I mean, this was chocolate. I distinctly remember eating it and then followed it up with eating her. I think it was called Tangy Taffy at the time, but I ate her Tangy Taffy bar, and I remember thinking I'm going to get in trouble for it. And everybody was like, "I don't care." That's all I thought. I do not care. I love Tangy Taffy to this day.
Yeah, and that's what it's like. It's like I had my middle daughter used to eat chalk and lipstick, and I was like, I have to create things. Even the shampoo that I have, the shampoo is also face wash, but you can use it as a bubble bath because it's concentrated. So most ingredients, the FDA says, okay, usually the first 4 ingredients, if you can't pronounce them, they're bad for you. They cause cancer. They have petroleum in it. They're mineral oil, blocks your pores, and it's almost like putting saran wrap on it, or you have PEGs, dyes, red dye number 4. All those things are carcinogenic. Or you have sodium lauryl sulfate, which is the main solvent in garage floor cleaners, or propylene glycol. They put in Tylenol, children's Tylenol. It's the main solvent in antifreeze. When an animal licks antifreeze, what happens to them? And we're putting all these products, all these ingredients in our products, and they're allowing it. But, in the cosmetic industry, virtually anyone can open up a company. All you have to do is just put the ingredients list on it, right? And I just decided.
Well, how do you interrupt you? But how do you get your source? Because I'll give you a funny, because my youngest 10-year-old, she loves cosmetics, and I've even bought EvelinaCosmetics.com because she loves it, and she's always like.
Did you say you were making chapstick too? I think
she's making, but it's all petroleum based. I know. We're just trying to find a way. I told her, I was like, she's like, well, the fun's making it. I was like, why don't we find someone to make it for us, and we'll use your cute little brand. Yeah. But I have a question though on that, just from a selfish business idea. How do you source it? Because I told her, like, listen, if you make something good, that's really truly natural, adults will buy it because they will. They 100% will. And you're like, she's like, I'm literally the little cutest thing and attitude, and anyway. Love her for it. How do you really source it so it's not crap? I mean, like, that's the thing.
Well, I just put 100% natural stuff. The beeswax and the cocoa butter, and then there's natural essential oils in there, and then essential, fragrances in there that are natural that give it just that little. Ooh, it smells like chocolate, like you said. It smells like cocoa butter. Ooh, that smells really good. But those are things that that when they go on your lips, they actually will prevent the cracked lips or the chapped lips. A lot of times I even take my chapstick and I have one specific in my car, and I take my finger over the top of it, and it's like a cuticle softener. Or if I get a little cracked on the top of my finger, I just put it on there and it gets rid of it. There's multi-uses for it, but at least I know that it's something good. And that was my goal. But also the fact is that I made this and I wanted to give back. So as a New York State director for A Cup of Cold Water, a portion of my proceeds of everything I sell goes towards the orphan. We're working in Kampala, Uganda, and we supply school supplies for them, medical needs, food, whatever they need in love. And then another portion of A Cup of Cold Water is the Holocaust survivors. So there's 168 remaining. We're in Belarus, and we provide them with medical transportation and food and love and care to give them their end days, because we're preserving history. And not many people think about that, especially what's going on in Israel. Can you imagine the ones that are still there? This is the end of their days. This is what they're getting. And to me, it's my heart is to try to make a difference in people's lives. So that's another reason why I do it. It's like, to me, it's not about the money at this stage of the game. When you're younger and you got that fire burning in you. And I knew at the age of 5, I was going to be a model, was going to be an actress, and end up in television in some way, shape, or form, whether, as a host or singing or whatever. But to have that focus at 5 years old and be able to do all those things, this fire that kept burning for me to do all these national, international jobs. And I've done thousands and thousands of jobs in TV, national TV. But now I'm at an age where it just changed. It changed. I think when I was about 35, I just went, you know what? It's not about me anymore. It's about making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah. And I'm going to make a prediction, just conscious of time too, but
Sure.
is that you hadn't even started what you were supposed to do on this earth. It's all been set up. You know, I look at this way, like, so, you know, I just had my 3rd-year high school reunion,
Yeah.
and I just realized, like, I should, by all math, you know, I don't drink anymore. I work out every morning at 8. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I actually use 0 cosmetics or anything else. There's nothing going on my skin. Because I find it whenever I do, it ruins it. I'm better just to let natural oils and try to drink some water. That's like the best form of. But my point is, anyway, that being said, is I think I should be able to get to 78 with some good energy, good life, you know, borrowing any tragedy. So I'm basically just graduating high school, and just as you are, you have 30 ahead of you to do something. So I don't even think it's been presented to you yet. I don't think the plan has been laid out. I think it's
well,
just
and I think it has, because what happened was, you know, Sergeant Q from season 18.
He's been on the show. He's on the show.
So I talked to him, and he just confirmed. You know, we had our spiritual talk too. It was really cool. We kind of went back and forth, and it was just profound. And he said, I'm going to just, you know, share some stuff with you. But then he said, Lisa, all that you do between fitness and nutrition and herbal remedies, because I want to integrate that into Be Harmony, is remedies that I actually will make remedies for clients if they have thyroid problems, if they want to lose weight, if they have anxiety and depression, if they, you know, they have migraines. I've gotten people from, you know, 20 to 25 days down to 6 days a month for migraines, and they've never been able to do that with any medication. He said, you need to take all that in your ministry and do your own TV show. I said, well, I have one. It's called the CrossFit Show, Total Mind, Body, and Spirit Transformation. But I want to make that into an official TV show and then put it on the different Christian stations, or, you know, blow it up more on YouTube, because I did little things over COVID, but I want to make it more official. And he said, that's what you need to do, because that will promote your business. That will promote your books. Because I have another book that's coming out that's going to be transforming the view of women as leaders in the Pentecostal church. But, you know, changing that perspective and view of how, you know, women were born to be this. We're not stuck in this, you know, cultural thing that was made out in the Bible, where the subtext, what was going on is that they were in a pagan nation, and women were priestess and overpowering men. And now they weren't also educated in the first century. So it was like, men think that women are supposed to be silent and submissive over the scripture, that they didn't understand the subtext of what really culturally was going on. And it was situational. And I'm just trying to change, you know, even in business, they still kind of got this, you know, women are here, and it's not every guy, but there's a lot of men that still try to stop you from, they won't listen. Or culturally, right? If you're working with somebody who's Muslim or who's Hindus respect women, but they're still in a position. And Muslim men, they won't even let you part of a conversation if you're, you know, if there's men. I mean,
good old American white dude, 50, a lot of them are like that now anyway.
Yeah. I mean, so you just got to understand it. I always say, don't take it personally. It's just, if you understand the culture and learn world religions, which I have done, now I understand why you're treated that way. So it's not anything to do with you, but, you know, you being the person that you've been called to be is what's most important. And that's what I'm trying to teach women. You know, I always say, God didn't put, you know, make you born to put duct tape on your mouth and be, you know, shut up. And not, because when you don't give people all the gifts that God has given you, you're robbing the world of you. That's what I say. You really are.
I agree. All right. So over here, shameless plug, bio, you can go to Dr. Lisa Christie. Here, I'll put this up there, but this is the site, bio.site/Dr. Lisa Christie. We just chopped off the last name just for that one, but that's okay, because it was already bought. I want your husband coming at me and kicking me in the nads, because he can do that. He can do that.
Well, that's always been my pro name in the industry, is Lisa Christie.
Lisa Christie.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on today. You're going to come back on for sure, because you're going to have some breakthroughs in life. Not that you haven't had any, but you're gonna have some more, and I want to know about them firsthand. I want the first interview to break it out.
You got it. It is promised to you, Tom, and I appreciate you. Thank you for thinking of me.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you. I'm gonna put you in the periwinkle room. I'll be right back. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lisa, for coming on. I really enjoyed our time when we got to hang out in the pods for the beta, or for beta blocks, and or for the blocks. Sorry, they call it beta blocks. Their branding's off a little bit. I was going to talk to Wes about it, but the blocks. And I really appreciate everyone who's listened to our show, and her journey is like, you know, she's telling the stories, but there's so much more there. Like there's there's just these verticals of like nuance that you can learn about. And I appreciate everyone who's been here. Listen, we're here to help you get better at entrepreneurship. I hope you can learn something from any one of our guests. And if you could take away from her journey of maybe with faith and some other pieces and apply it to your own leadership or apply it to your own journey itself and trust in maybe a bigger plan, it might be good for you. But until we meet again, get out there, go unleash your entrepreneur. And thank you for listening.